Welcome everybody. I'm JD, one of my good pal Gail over here, and welcome to Gail Force. And today we got a few subjects we're going to talk about. Real quick, we'll do some crypto news, and then we'll get into what's happening with the yellow vest happenings over in Europe and Greece. And then we're going to talk about the gas line explosion down in Mexico.
Yes.
And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about the new socialism coming to America. Be proud, America. So welcome to the show. You can catch us on YouTube under Gail Force Creations. You can catch us on BitTube and Steemit. We're going to start posting on Steemit if that's the alternative to Facebook. And also, you can catch us on Facebook under Every Bit Matters. Just do a search for Every Bit Matters, because pretty soon when the Great Depression hits, the second Great Depression or the third Great Depression, you might want a little bit of Bitcoin. So welcome, Gail. How you doing today?
Doing very well. Getting ready for the chilly weather tonight.
Oh, yeah. We're down here in Central Florida, and we got some Gale Force winds out here almost. And
Absolutely.
It's getting a little bit chilly.
They're talking about it getting down below 40, and that to me is freezing.
We're not used to that here in Florida. That
No.
means we got to break out the big jackets.
You betcha.
Big heavy
Because
jackets.
of the humidity, when the cold wind blows,
Mhm.
it's just like being in Chicago. That stuff cuts right through you like
Yeah.
a knife.
Yeah, right through the palm trees and everything. We have to, we have to ice our drinks down. So what's going on with Bitcoin? What's the current price?
Current price on Bitcoin at the moment is we're talking about it being $35.90, and Litecoin's at $31.05. They're off about 4%.
There hasn't been a real lot of news here lately in the crypto markets, so
Not really. There's been, I think what a lot was going on is everybody was planning on this ETF.
yeah, I haven't heard much about that. They postponed it again.
They postponed it again. Personally, I don't think it's going to do any good because the big bankers, they screw things up when they get in there with their futures.
They pretty much have screwed up. Well, they haven't screwed up Wall Street, but it's a great printing press for them.
Yes.
The guys on Wall Street make all the money, and the little guy in
Well,
his 401ks,
They have computers doing algorithms that trade millions of transactions a minute.
Yeah. And
So it's fractions of a dollar or fractions of a cent.
If they get their hands on Bitcoin and other crypto coins, no telling what might happen.
Well,
But we'll keep you updated on that kind of stuff.
The thing is, with the futures, they're not really trading in physical.
Yeah. But we do recommend that you get a few dollars of Bitcoin or Litecoin. Litecoin's been
a good one.
a little happening on Litecoin. You were telling me about
Yeah, well, Litecoin's got
Litecoin?
several things going on. Actually, Charlie Lee, he's working with the MIT, and they're doing the Lightning Network, which is going to be a side chain thing, which will
Have a beer, everybody. Join us.
that will really speed things up, and they're coming along with that. But a few weeks ago, Litecoin was on the, I can't remember, I think it was UFC, not MMA, but anyway.
One of those fighting clubs.
Yeah,
huh?
one of those fighting clubs. They actually had their insignia and their ring and everything else. Charlie Lee was ringside with John Kim and several others, and
That's interesting.
yes,
I've been waiting for some kind of commercial or some kind of
adoption.
Yeah, seeing some Bitcoin logo or a Litecoin logo or some kind of logo, promoting something. And,
Well, that week is public awareness.
yeah,
And
because most people here in America have no idea what a digital coin is or a Bitcoin. They've heard of it, but they really don't know what it is.
Americans, just like you and I've talked off camera, is years ago when texting started.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you get so many minutes and 10 free texts or 50 free texts for so much a month. And in Japan and China, there was no cap on texting.
Yeah, they were way ahead of us.
They didn't hardly make phone calls. They were texting. They'll go ahead, cramps in their fingers.
I remember it was 10 cents a text when it first came out, and it was like, man, you were afraid to text because your bill at the end of the month would be.
Yeah,
we're like 5 years behind. Everybody thinks we're ahead of the rest of the world. You go over to Singapore or Japan. Oh man, they're so far ahead of us. We're just.
Well, I've watched a couple of shows that people go around and they go to different conferences for hotels and vacation clubs and stuff like that, and they wind up going to China. 95% of all of the stuff in China, right here.
That's
People in a market, even dog down getting tomatoes and onions and stuff, they have either your fingerprint or facial recognition. Everything's done with a digital wallet on your phone.
There's even hotels there where you don't even meet a human. You check in by yourself, you go to your room, open your door with your phone. I mean, it's all electronic. You don't have to sit there and wait for some bumbling guy to find you on the computer.
QRC codes and barcodes on your computer.
Yep.
Well, now if you're in the flying club, my son just was out at the Disney Marathon last week.
Yep.
And he flew down, and there's no need to get a paper boarding pass or anything.
Pretty much.
Unless
you're your age and you're one of the older folks there that like that technology, the paper, you know.
Yeah, but I'm different for an older guy. I love the new technology.
Yeah.
See, JD and I have been playing with computers since the early 80s when they were 8-bit Ataris.
Yeah, the original Atari
64s.
ST. That was the computer back in the day.
Yeah, buddy.
I miss my Atari ST. I remember my first hard drive, the 10 megabit hard drive. It was like incredible. It was a brick, but
yeah, there's no way you're going to fill it.
Yeah.
And I ran a bulletin board, and I had a Seagate ST225, 20 megabyte hard drive.
Yeah.
And I thought, how can somebody
ever put that much in there?
A 20 megabyte hard drive. How could you fill that? There are apps on your cell phone now that are 20 megabyte.
20 megabyte, yeah. So people, we're way behind here in America. You think we're cutting technology. You go to Singapore or somewhere and you'll be blown away.
You go and you hear about some of these depressed countries in the world like Zimbabwe, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela. You get down there, they've got a Dash wallet, or they've got a Loaf wallet, which is for Litecoin, or they have like the Jax wallet, which has Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
They're using wallets all over the place.
It's big. Digital coins is a big deal in Central America and South America and Africa, even in Africa and some of the Kenya and some of the countries you haven't heard of. They do a lot of stuff with digital coins because they don't have banks over there. They don't trust their money.
Kenya, Nigeria, Zimbabwe.
Here in America, we have no idea what a Bitcoin is or.
My God! That's the only keeping them alive is they live by using cryptocurrency.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that here in America, and we'll if we hear some more news on Bitcoin or Litecoin or any other coins, we're invested in a few. I wouldn't say invested. We're playing around with them and see what happens. But we'll try to keep you updated on that. We've been doing it for 2 or 3 years, and we've lost a lot of money in it, and and made some money too. But it's new technology, and we're all for that. I mean,
we're in it for the long run because we know.
Because one day, our fiat money, I might even have some in my wallet here. Yeah, this stuff here. Pretty soon, this is just paper, and this is what your life is based on. A piece of paper, and it's just ink on there. The ink's probably worth more than this dollar is.
The difference between that and a $100 bill is just the ink on it.
Yeah, and the number of zeros on it. It's pretty much worthless, and they just keep printing it. Which brings us to our next subject: is the great socialist country of America.
The USSA.
The USSA, yeah, and socialism seems to be the big thing here in America now. And it's funny because if you read some news reports or talk to some people that have actually lived in socialist countries, they've given it up because they know it just really makes everybody poor, makes life a lot harder. But we have this new congressman that's going to turn it around. Cortez, what's her name?
Cortez or whatever.
She graduated with a degree in economics, and they taught her well. This just shows you how good our education system is that she thinks that socialism is the way America ought to go, and pretty much what socialism is you live off your neighbor. So, look at your neighbors and see how well they're living and just think that they're going to be paying your bill, and that's what socialism is. And she wants to bring it to America here. And I just think it's just shows how incredibly a college degree is not worth nothing.
Oh, I mean, it's degrees in worthlessness.
Yeah, I mean, if she went into debt getting a degree in economics, then I guess she got what she paid for, because she has no idea how economics works. As a matter of fact, most of 90% of America, there's
it's not Austrian economics.
Yeah, there's two different kinds. Keynesian, which means the government controls everything and prints money to get them out of trouble.
And you can borrow your way out of debt.
Yeah. And Austrian economics is true economics, where you work for your money. You create wealth. And
fair trade.
And fair trade, yeah. And everybody, it's a win-win situation.
With limited regulations.
Yeah, very limited regulations. But Cortez here is going around thinking that everybody should have free education, and we show what that's worth. Her education apparently is worthless, because her degree in economics, she has no idea what she's doing. And she just thinks that, the government can print money, because we're, $21 trillion in debt. Now, that's just what the government says we're in debt. Now, you were talking about this report of this lady that went looking for some hidden money, or should we say lost money, and she found out that 21 trillion is really not what we're in debt. I mean, 21 trillion is just like what some of the departments have lost over the last couple of years. I mean,
Catherine Austin Fitts was the woman's name. She was like second or third in line for HUD, Housing and Urban Development, back under Clinton and stuff. And she got kind of an insomnia type thing over the last few years. Spent a lot of time at night playing with her computer, and she went out there and started downloading economic reports from different government agencies. And these are the official things on .gov and all that kind of stuff. And she found that just between HUD, Housing and Urban Development, and the Defense Department, there was 21 trillion missing dollars there.
Holy moly.
Now, everybody forgets one thing. The day before 9/11, Dick Cheney went before Congress and said, Defense Department's got a problem. We've got $2 trillion missing. That was one day before 9/11.
Yeah, and that was just $2 trillion.
That was just $2 trillion. Yeah. So she printed this report on her thing called the Solari report and stuff like that. Well, there's this professor, Dr. Mark Skidmore. He is the head of economics. He's a professor at University of Michigan. He kind
of doubted her report. I mean,
he fully doubted her report.
He said that she was
to get their master's degree, those people in his economic department, their project was to go and prove Catherine Austin Fitts was wrong.
And how did they do?
She was wrong.
Oh, she was. So the report that she put out was just bogus, and the money
was wrong. It wasn't $21 trillion. They found at least $30 trillion missing. And when they brought the report out, they took the reports down, blacked them out, and redacted them and put them back up. So it's a national security issue.
So this is your money, folks. It's missing money that hasn't gone up in smoke. It's gone into somebody's pockets. We just don't know whose pockets.
Correct.
And this is, so when you see the government report that we're $21 trillion in debt, that's probably just the tip. Now, that doesn't include all of the
black projects,
your retirement, your pensions. That doesn't include all of the government pensions.
No. If you talk about pensions,
and then future Social Security payments and other promises
Medicare, Medicaid,
we're closer to $200 trillion in
not
debt.
Closer, we're over $200 trillion.
Yeah, and this is money that's been promised out that will never be paid, and Cortez wants to double down on that, because she says what's great about America is we have plenty of paper and plenty of ink. So we can make as much money as we want.
Right.
So you can imagine how that works. I don't know if y'all know about hyperinflation, but if we did some studies of hyperinflation in the past, we know it doesn't work out too well. You have to carry a wheelbarrow around.
No, not really.
And they're doing that pretty much in Venezuela.
Pretty much.
Backpacks full of money. So if you see somebody carrying a backpack in Venezuela, they
don't have dirty socks in there.
Yeah.
They've got money.
They're going out to buy lunch because that'll probably buy you lunch, a backpack of money.
And people in Venezuela, because inflation moves so fast, a lot of times they'll pay for a cup of coffee and a sandwich when they get there. Because if it takes 10 or 15 minutes or half an hour to get it,
your bill would be higher.
It might go up 5 or 10%.
I mean, that's the way it was in Germany during the Weimar
Republic. Yeah.
Yeah, you go in there and order a cup of coffee, and by the time you got your cup of coffee, it was twice as much as when you ordered it. So you always paid for it when you first ordered it. And, again, this just shows with Cortez wanting to bring more socialism to America, it just shows how bankrupt our education system is, because right now socialism seems to be the in thing for the millenniums. They seem to think socialism is the way to go. Live off your neighbor, we're our brother's keeper. But that's not what made America. I mean, if they taught American history in school, which they don't anymore. They don't teach the Constitution. They don't teach a Declaration of Independence. But if they taught that kind of stuff, we wouldn't have people talking about socialism here. During the 50s, it was everything we could do to get the communists and socialists. By the way, socialist and communist is the same thing. There's no difference.
Well, one's a party member and that was not a party member.
Well, communist is it's forced on you, where socialism, which is the same as communism, you voted in. So you feel better because I voted to be a communist instead of being forced to be a communist. So a socialist and a communist is the same thing. And they should teach that in school, but they don't. So just, if you're the big socialist now, you haven't been taught what socialism is. And you'll see pretty soon that every country that has tried socialism hates it. Even Cubans, the big socialist communist country of Cuba, the people hate it.
Well, originally Russia was a communist socialist thing. It fell down.
Yeah.
And now they have more of a capitalist thing.
Yeah, that's
China. China killed 90 million people trying to force communism and socialism on people.
And look what they're doing now. They're building all our stuff. So they're not really
They've turned into socialist capitalists.
Yeah.
Just like Russia, socialist capitalists.
Yeah. I mean, why do you think Donald Trump was trying to build a hotel in Russia?
To make money.
I like bringing Donald Trump up. Look, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. The last election was the first election I didn't vote in. But, I like tweaking people, because I think Trump is doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
I think he's playing some weird games.
Yeah. It could be a little dangerous, but...
Yeah.
We talked about last week the border wall and how he's getting Mexico to pay for it. So if you want to learn how Mexico is paying for the border wall, check out our last show.
A border wall, yeah.
So go to YouTube and check out Gail Force Creations and check out the border wall and how Trump is forcing the people of Mexico to pay for the wall. It's quite funny.
Yeah, true. But about socialism, there was an intelligent prime minister in England. Her name was Margaret Thatcher.
She was a big socialist. Keep talking. I'm going to grab another beer back here.
One of her famous sayings, the problem with socialism is sooner or later you run out of other people's money.
Yeah. Well, see, we can't do that here in America because they just print more money.
Well,
once they spend everybody's money, then they just print more money. So we'll never go broke.
Nah. How about if I give them a quick example?
Can you do that?
I can do that. Everybody wants to talk about confiscation. Confiscation of gold, confiscation of silver.
Like they did back in the Great Depression?
Oh, yeah, FDR or whoever it was confiscated the gold. No, he did not confiscate the gold. They passed a law that you had to go down to the bank or Federal Reserve.
They didn't confiscate. They made it illegal to own gold.
They had you to turn it in. They gave you fair value. A $20 gold piece, they gave you $20 printed. So they didn't confiscate it. They didn't take it away.
They just traded it. It was a
They
trade.
forced you to trade
It was
for
an
paper.
Equal trade, right?
At that time, it was equal trade. Then about a week or so later, they did a bank holiday where they closed the bank for 4 days. And they revalued gold from $27 an ounce to $35 an ounce.
So if you
And the reason they had to do that because gold, an ounce of gold was $27.87 or something like that. So a $20 gold piece, the gold was worth more than $20. That's why they forced the deal.
Yeah.
So people got their, if you had 5 $20 gold pieces, that's $100. They gave you 5 $20
bank
paper notes.
Fair trade.
Now here we are, almost 100 years later.
How'd that trade work out?
Those 5 $20 paper dollars, because of inflation and them printing and making things worthless, that $100 worth of paper money is worth about $6, and the 5 $20 gold pieces are worth about $8,775.
Again.
So hiding the money under your mattress would have made you money.
Again, as Ronald Reagan once said, what's the 7 scariest words in the English language? We're from the government and we're here to help.
We're here to help, yeah.
So they did you a good service by giving you $100 of paper money for $8,000 worth of gold.
Yeah.
That's a great deal. I'd take that every day. That's a sacrifice, people. I hate the word sacrifice because people don't understand. Whenever you hear a socialist or somebody like Pelosi or somebody say
Marxist or socialist,
you know, we need to sacrifice. Do you know what the word sacrifice means? That means you're giving up something of more value to something of less value. Now, I don't know about you, but a sacrifice is not a good thing. I don't want something of lesser value in exchange for something of more of value.
Oh, another buzzword.
When somebody says we need to sacrifice, yeah. Right.
Another buzzword these people say sacrifice. Okay. Well, these people need to pay their fair share. Well, first off, you can't count. Because if I pay, let's say I pay 10% in taxes, and let's say I make $30,000. That means I pay $3,000 in taxes. Let's say JD made $300,000, and if he paid 10%, yeah.
Keep talking. I'm looking.
We're talking $30,000 in taxes, right? 10% of 300 is 30,000. We both paid 10%.
10%.
That's fair.
That's fair. But somebody pays more because they've got a little more. They're actually paying more, even though they're. But whenever somebody says you need to pay your fair share, they can't define it.
No.
I keep asking.
They just want to steal your money.
My liberal friends, what is a fair share? And they can't define it. Just like they can't define socialism or democratic. I don't know what the hell democratic socialism. And like I said, that's the same as communism. You just voted in.
Right.
But what is fair share? Define it. You define what fair share is, and then I'll think about paying my fair share. Otherwise, my goal, like Donald Trump always said, is to pay less in taxes as possible. Because taxation, believe it or not, folks, is theft.
It really is.
If people would look at the start of taxation back in the Middle Ages, taxation is just a way for the government to steal money that they can't outright steal. It's a back way into your wallet. So, yeah. And speaking of back way into wallets, what's happened in Mexico?
Some people trying to find a back way in Mexico. They learned the hard way. Yeah? They cut into a pipeline and were stealing gas.
You know, I've only heard about this. Actually, this happens a lot in Africa and some of the oil-producing countries down there. And they're so poor that people actually go to the pipelines and try to cut a hole in there to siphon out gasoline or oil or whatever. And when you take saws or drills, you know, into metal with something flammable on the other side, bad things happen.
You might be able to do a crude oil. But if you get a finished product or halfway finished product that flows good, like diesel or gasoline,
kerosene, or...
you start putting sparks at it.
So what has happened in Mexico? And why would they do this in Mexico? I thought Mexico was a nice place to go. And
yeah.
Because people travel through Mexico from Honduras to get to the United States.
They were just trying to find ways to make money, so they took a drug into the pipeline, and they were going to steal gasoline for free and then sell it. Well, there's a lot of charred bones down there, and there's been right at 74 people that are dead right now.
That they know of.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got some dental records and stuff like that. There's some burns.
So a big explosion. I just read about it yesterday. I haven't had a chance to confirm this, but
70-some people are confirmed dead and dozens that are injured.
It's nothing to laugh about. You know, there's poor people all over the world, but messing with stuff like that is that's kind of sad, you know.
It's like trying to steal electricity and they find you fried on a pole like a squirrel.
Oh yeah, this happened years ago when copper was really, really expensive. People would go into transformer units and try to rip out live wires.
People just trying to steal electricity.
Oh, just trying to steal electricity, yeah.
You know, stealing cable, you might get away with that. Yeah. It won't fry you. But trying to steal electricity, they might find you're charred up there on a dog.
Because I think most of those big lines you see outside, they're not carrying 110 volts, you know.
No.
You know, when you start getting to 440 and 16,000 volts,
right,
things happen. So big explosion down in Mexico. People trying to, I don't know. It's kind of like the congressman up in Washington. You know, they want to live off the rest of America's, and they want to give their constituents a good deal. So they steal from one group of people to give to another group of people. And it's easy to spend other people's money, and I guess the people down in Mexico.
It's a vote for me scam, right?
Yeah, so they weren't getting their fair share of gasoline, so they thought they'd take things in their own hands, and ended up causing a big explosion. Now that hurts a lot of people, because now the gas company has to replace the line, and
now there are actually shortages at the gas stations because they have got to shut everything down. They have to repair the pipeline, and they're going to have to go 200 or 300 feet either side of the pipeline.
And now they got to fence it all off, or pay for it.
Well, you got a hazmat cleanup.
Yeah, and then you're going to have lawyers down there like Morgan & Morgan. I'm sure going to have some
for the people.
Big lawsuits because the gas companies were negligent and not protecting the gas lines. You know. So,
but if you had drones with machine guns on it to keep people from doing it, then it's the gas company's fault again.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what. Just to go back in time, the big fires in California, like last year. It's funny because the utility companies,
PG&E.
Yeah, they're on the hook to pay a lot of fines and lawsuits that happened because of the fires. But it's funny because when the fires were raging, they were in Hawaii with some of the legislators from California trying to find out how they could kind of pass the buck a little bit. So, while California was burning, of course, all your good Democratic congressmen from California were down in Hawaii with the utility companies trying to find out how to pass the buck. So I feel for you guys in California.
Pass the buck.
And I never did hear this story about the nuclear plant down there. But
the whole deal. They're going to have to, Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, they're going to have to file bankruptcy.
Yep. And they're the biggest utility down there, so.
And everybody said, well, good, let them do it. Well, the problem with all these things that 90% of the people don't see, your retirement funds and 401k funds, to get money, they have bond issues from utility companies and stuff. If the utility company goes belly up and goes Chapter 11 or 13 or whatever they do, and they go bankrupt and sell out, that is hundreds of millions of dollars that's not going to be in your retirement fund.
Yeah, going to be wiped out. Yep, not there when you need it.
And then all your teachers and firemen and policemen union, well, we were promised our money. Wait. Well,
And a lot of people are going to be retiring early to get that money before it runs out. So then there's going to be shortages of teachers and firemen and policemen, people double dipping. And who's the new governor of California? Newsom, or I don't know what he is, but now he said it's a full sanctuary state. And I just read that he's thinking about running for president, and nobody even knows who this guy is. He just got elected to governor, and now he's going to wipe out California. California's in bad shape. I feel for you guys. Yeah, I don't know. This whole country's gone to hell. And I just kick back and have a beer and a cigar and laugh about it, even though I shouldn't be. But I find humor in a lot of strange ways.
Well, it's like, it's like going to a monster truck race, but not a sanctioned one out in the mud bogs, and you're sitting there like, oh, this is going to be good. Let's watch this one. Hey, Bubba.
Get the camera.
Get the camera. This one's going to be a good one.
Hold my beer.
Hold my beer, because this is going to be something.
It's all fun and games till somebody gets herpes.
Absolutely.
So, and that's
but this socialism and stuff is basically communism. The only reason the United States hasn't fallen yet is because we are the default world currency.
Mm-hmm.
And if we ever fall from being the world reserve currency, we will become just like Venezuela and Argentina and Brazil.
Yeah, we're lucky, as Gail always says. We're the ugliest of the ugly sisters. So
we're the prettiest of all the ugly sisters.
Prettiest of the ugliest sisters. So.
And the thing is, what people don't see is, with all this stuff in the Middle East, they're trying to take and deal with Saudi Arabia and all that stuff in Venezuela. They're trying to deal in other currencies besides the U.S. dollar. If that happens,
Russia and China are getting together, and they're going to start trading in.
They're remembering the gold-backed yuan, and
so one day we won't be on top, guys.
Oh yeah, well there's the Belt and Road, which is a super highway along through Mongolia and stuff. They had the old Silk Road back under Marco Polo and stuff. And what Americans don't understand, this is a super highway of dual railroad tracks, one going east, one going west, and truck highways where they're going to have, like they do in Australia, where they have the doggone truck trains, where you have a big old Mack truck with three and four trailers.
Mm-hmm.
There is commerce going to go all across China, India, into the Middle East.
Out on that.
And it's not going to be done in U.S. dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And when that starts happening, the U.S. dollar, the value is going to go to the point that Americans are going to say, well, what the heck? Well, I guess I'll vote for a bunch of Democrats because these Republicans screwed it up.
Yeah.
No, this has been screwed up for 30 or 40 years.
Oh, yeah. It's
Democrats and Republicans together.
They've all screwed us. Yeah.
To say that JD and I like to poke fun. Well, Bush did that, and Obama did that, and Trump's doing this, and Clinton did that. They're all a bunch of thieves and liars going back a long way.
Both parties. I don't really associate with any of the parties now. Some people might say I'm libertarian, but I'm a radical capitalist.
Right.
I think the government. I think when I trade, if I'm trading an apple between me and Gail, that we should both win.
Right.
And there shouldn't be a third party involved.
Fair trade.
If I give you an apple and you give me a gold coin, some third guy shouldn't have to get a share of that gold coin to show that apple's safe. Because if he eats an apple and he gets sick, he's not going to trade with me anymore.
Right.
And then word will get out that my apples aren't any good. So it's upon me to make sure my product's a good product that people want to keep buying.
Correct.
Because it helps us both.
Right. If you
I don't need chicken
for an apple pie, and we shake hands and agree, that's called fair trade.
Fair trade. And that's kind of like your fair share, your fair tax. You don't need a third party to take part of your money to prove that your product's good, and then it all works out. And I'm a radical capitalist. I'm not one of these crony capitalists that think you need to go in there and bribe
regulate
your And all regulation is to keep the small guy out. If you notice, all the big companies can buy all these small companies because that's how it's set up. So.
Well, JD and I like to take and send jokes back and forth and stuff like that. We're going to leave you with a perfect example of what we're talking about with regulations.
Hit me.
We love bacon.
Bacon. That should be the ultimate currency.
Now, how many times in the last year have they had to take vegetables off the shelf because of E. coli and everything else? There has been no recall of bacon.
Bacon. You're safe with bacon.
You're safer with bacon than you are eating a salad.
So I don't know if all the FDA guys are hanging around the bacon farms or whatever, you know, the pig farms, making sure your bacon's safe because they like bacon. But there's never been a bacon recall that I know of.
Not that I know of.
And I know turkey bacon, there has been some recall.
Yes,
turkey.
That's because of Tyson. Oh, wait a minute, we can't say Tyson. They're a big company that buys all the FDA people.
That's it. So
I've never seen, there's two things I've never seen. I've never seen a major recall on bacon, and I've never in my lifetime, and that's a couple days, I've never seen where you needed to regulate some little pigtailed girl in her driveway selling lemonade that she needs a license for that. This is why I have no respect for the government and any police officer enforcing such laws.
yeah, that's just nuts.
I can't respect you.
Yeah.
There is never in, I don't think you go back 100 years, a little girl selling lemonade in the driveway on a hot day. Anybody ever getting sick?
It's like the FDA, you know.
But Tyson's still around.
Yeah, and you have the FDA that approves all these drugs, so we have safe drugs, and yet what do you see at night? Lawyers saying that this drug, this FDA-approved drug is unsafe, this FDA-approved drug is unsafe. Well, what good is the FDA if every drug they approve has a commercial at night with lawyers saying that if you're ever taking this drug, you know, call us because the drug's unsafe. But wait, the FDA said the drug was safe, but they don't have to pay, but the company does. It's what good is the FDA? At least they're keeping bacon safe.
Bacon is
I'll
safe.
give them that. So as long as they
Bacon is safe.
as long as they keep bacon safe, I'm all for it. Okay, don't forget, new episodes every Sunday right here on Gail Force Creations on YouTube. You can catch us on BitTube. You're going to be catching us on Steemit. You're going to catch us on Facebook under Every Bit Matters. And then 2 or 3 times a week, we'll try to do a quick update on some news stories that might be coming up on our Sunday edition. So Sunday is the big day when we sit around, have some cigars. Yes, we like tobacco, and we like our beer. And so catch us here on Gale Force, and we hope to see you next week. Any closing thoughts?
Just hold it together.
That's it. Every bit matters. Get you some. We'll see you next week. Have fun, everybody. It's always a blast here on Gale Force.